Hey, welcome to 12 Tone. Writing music is hard. You have to carefully pick every note and chord, and you have to arrange it all to make sure that everything connects smoothly and all the sounds are properly balanced. It's a lot of work. Wouldn't it be nice if we could just do it all randomly? What if we could roll dice and music would just happen? Well, as is so often the case with these hypothetical questions, we totally can. It's called chance composition, and it's awesome. Quick side note, there's a lot of disagreement about terminology here. Depending on who you ask, this could also be called aleatoric music or indeterminate music, and some theorists argue that all three terms are valid but mean different things. It's not really a big deal, but we theorists can get pretty defensive about our terminology, so be careful. Anyway, how does it work? We could start by literally rolling dice. We could generate some random notes for our melody, then add rhythms and chords to it ourselves to make it sound good. This works well enough in short bursts where you're likely to get something coherent just by chance, but the longer it gets, the harder it is to pick out any real structure from the chaos. In order to write a whole song like this, we need to plan ahead a bit more. We could try limiting ourselves to notes from a single scale, or maybe we could generate a vague melodic shape randomly and then fill in the details ourselves. Or we could do something else entirely. A common approach to chance composition is to base your work on a predetermined source you have no control over. Perhaps the most famous version of this is Birds on the Wires. This version is by Jarvis and Yelly, but other composers have done similar things. The trick here is that if you have 5 telephone lines, you can pretend they're the 5 lines of the treble clef, and if there are birds on those wires, you can pretend that they're notes and read the music their positioning creates. This will always give you a nice melody because the spaces the birds can occupy spell out a fairly consonant chord, but what exactly that melody will be completely depends on where the birds happen to land. You can do the same thing with any external source you want as long as you have a good way of converting it into musical instructions. And we don't have to stop at melodies either. You can randomly generate rhythms, chords, tempos, dynamics, and anything else you can think of. Even instrumentation can be random if you want. There's no limits. But, well, there has been one limit, hasn't there? In all these examples, we've only covered randomness in the composition phase. By the time these pieces actually get performed, they're finished. They're always going to sound the same. But what if they didn't? What if we infused randomness into the performance itself? How would that even work? This idea goes back to at least the late 1700s, where composers would make musical dice games, short compositions divided into sections randomly selected from a set of pre-written parts. Players would roll a set of dice, find the bar of music corresponding to each result, then play them in order to make a brand new song. These were a popular toy at the time, and in fact Mozart himself may have written one, although the historical record on that is somewhat unclear. Despite being random, these dice games were carefully designed so that no matter what you rolled, you'd get something pretty normal. In the mid-20th century, though, composers began to experiment further. Like, a lot further. In many cases, instead of true randomness, these composers just left important decisions to the performer so that each rendition would be something new. Of course, the performer always has some influence over the music they play, but this is something altogether different. For instance, 25 Pages, a piece by Earl Brown, is literally 25 unnumbered pages of music that you can arrange in any order you like. It's even written so that you can play it upside down if you want to, which gives you over 500 quadrillion possible results. Another example is Terry Riley's In C, where instead of a score, he writes 53 small snippets of music in a specific order. When the piece begins, everyone starts playing the first one over and over until they decide to move on. Each player can move independently, so the whole orchestra drifts in and out of sync with each other. You're not supposed to let people get too far ahead of you, but beyond that, there's not really much structure. Each performance follows the same basic arc, but in the details, there's an infinite amount of variety. And again, we're not limited to just randomizing notes, as seen in a John Cage composition with both the title and tempo marking as slow as possible. Here, the only limit is how long the performer is willing to drag it out. This could be as little as 30 minutes or so, but there are documented cases of performances lasting hours or even a whole day. And in one cathedral in Halberstadt, Germany, a single performance has been playing on a specially made organ for the last 15 years, and it's supposed to last 624 more. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you want to help make these videos possible, please consider supporting 12 Tone on Patreon. You can also join our mailing list for scans of all our episodes. Like, share, comment, subscribe, and keep on rockin'.